value we perceive in the world. Normally, we're used to give value to time. When you are a professional, a freelancer, an expert, and somebody contracts you, normally you sell time. Also, when you have a contract as an employee, in your contract is defined how are going you to be compensated for the time you dedicate to the company. So we used to think about time as a reference for value, but we are totally wrong. And I will tell a story trying to give you an example why. What is the value of things? What is the value of what we do, what we experience together? And how can we compensate others for what we achieve thanks to their collaboration and contribution? And there we're coming to a point to ask ourselves, are we really contributing to others in the same way that they do contribute to us? Then our perception of value needs to then be adjusted accordingly. In a presentation before, in one of my videos on YouTube, I was sharing about my first business when I was selling playtime. I was selling a specific amount of time in which my customer can utilize a video game to enjoy playing it. So it was a leisure activity. The customer will commit to pay a certain amount of money for having the access to a video game for a specific amount of time. He was not paying for the time. The time was a measurement, a reference. He was paying for playing. Well, I hope this is a clear example. Now, if he plays a game that he likes so much, if he plays a game that he does not like so much, if he, in the process of 10 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour, shift from one game to another one, trying to find the game that gives them more satisfaction, then the customer explores, and the time was used then for exploring preferences and the experiences, the quality of experiences of different games. That is also a value, that you have access to explore possibilities, and therefore then you compensate the company for that exploration process, which means also you're going to be exposed to the content itself, right? And it is your choice, your ability to identify quickly or not what you want to do. That depends on you. It's for every person different. Anyway, you are consuming the service. Well, there's a story that I have to share with you because my conversation right now with some members of my ecosystem is coming back to an old conversation about the value of what we deliver and of our contributions and the perception of value that is so important for our society. In antiquity, people will exchange items based on what they need. They will exchange shells for food, or water for fruits, or minerals for wood, and seeds for jewels. And the value of the trade, the transaction, what you're going to give to each other, needs to come from an agreement in which mutual parts, both parties, feel satisfied. And the exchange means that for both parties there is a clear perception of value, so that if somebody gives you something that you need. But we also have been experiencing in history that in antiquity, not that far in time, some hundreds of years ago, indigenous people in the tribe will receive crafts yearly and worthless items and alcohol and tobacco in exchange for the land. So the perception of value was not clear for both parties. So how did I start to learn to think about this, and how did I explore and start my journey trying to understand the perception of value of what we do, and how all of that turned to become a tremendously important experience for me for my journey as an entrepreneur. Almost every summer, or at least once per year, I will visit my grandparents in the highlands in Peru. And we live in a small town. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and my grandmother was coming from a family that was engaged in hospitality. So they had an hotel, and she was growing up in that type of environment related to business. And so they both were very familiar to the world of business for the generation, and they lived in a very beautiful house that was covering both sides of the whole square and the street. It was a very long house with different buildings inside and gardens, and in the backyard it was a very long backyard. They had some animals, and sometimes they have horses and all type of animals. So it was very much like a very little tiny farm inside of the property. So for me as a child, will be extremely interesting to explore the whole house. It's a house filled with mysteries, to climb the huge trees that they have, to walk among, the plants and the crops that they have, to always watch the animals and hide and seek in the property was fascinating. So I had so much space to enjoy that it was always for me a wonderful feeling to go and visit my grandparents, because there was so much to do. The house was really filled with mysteries, and I will always discover something new in every new room I will enter, and so many stories to tell. And the house of them was next to the house of the sister of my grandmother, and all of these properties were all together, so I will play also with her grandchildren, and yeah, we will have a bunch of kids playing together around. So all of that was clearly very interesting to me, and I was feeling so confident. So once my parents sent me along to my grandparents for some days, and I was very happy to be there. Yet something unusual happened that week, and it was that because I was used to wake up and go for breakfast as every kid a certain hour when the light of the day is coming, and there we're talking about South America, Peru, so we're so close to the equatorial line that the sun goes up and down, rises and falls very much at the same time every day in the year. So then I was so used to stand up when there was light in the street, light in the day. But suddenly my grandmother will come to me early in the morning, and everything was very dark, and she asked me to get ready because my grandfather wanted me to help him. And I was not so happy about that. It was my very first day in that vacations, and decided just to follow. Well, I will respect my grandfather, just go wherever he needs, I will help. I was very sleepy in the morning, and suddenly I found myself carrying, pots with water, giving water to all the plants, and carrying the food for all the animals, and giving to the animals water and food, and helping my father to clean, all the space for the animals to have a healthy and nice place to stay over the day. And organizing everything that needed to be done in the house, for the plants, for the crops, for the animals, for the buildings. And it took probably a couple of hours. And then the light of the day came, and my father told me, okay, now it's time to have breakfast. So we went to the building of their house, and my grandma was waiting with a delicious breakfast that I was so happy always about. And we just sit together and have breakfast together. And I was feeling shocked because I was working very early in the morning, helping my grandfather in tasks that had to do with the house. And I never had to do such a thing with my parents. My parents were academics. My father ended up becoming a dean of 2 universities, and my mother was also very much an academic. And they had a completely different lifestyle. You know, for them was or doing research and explorations in nature, or writing books, or teaching lectures at university, or you know, having interesting discussions, and this was completely different lifestyle of an intellectual, of an academic, a researcher. And yeah, I was not so pulled by what my parents were doing, but this specific week with my grandfather, I was experiencing something completely new. And well, I said nothing, and I was enjoying from the breakfast, and then my grandmother asked me to go and play, to find my things, to do whatever I wanted to do. My grandfather wanted to do his own business, and I spent a wonderful day there. So the day passed, and I was so happy sharing time with them, doing many other things, and visiting my cousins, and having a good time. And the next day came, and one more time, my grandmother early in the morning wakes me up and asks me to help my grandfather. And that will continue happening for the whole week. Every day in that week, I will go through the same process. Waking up very early in the morning, there was still no light in the day, helping my grandfather in so many tasks for the house, having a delicious breakfast with my grandma, grandpa, and then, you know, having nice conversations, playing with them, spending some time of the morning, and then spending the rest of the day doing whatever I wanted to do. So the last day of the week, I had to prepare myself to go back to Lima, to the main city in Peru. And my grandfather, after the morning work, comes to me and asks me how was the week. And I explained, well, at the beginning I was not feeling so happy to wake up so early in the morning, but actually I started having a lot of fun. And I enjoyed to cut from the plants, and I was so happy to observe the animals and learn how they live and what they need. And my grandfather was a great teacher. He was telling me all sorts of stories, not only about his house, the animals, the plants, but about his life, the mountains, his life story, and spending a lot of time with me, also later playing and teaching me mathematics and playing cards and teaching me how to learn to predict movements with the cards and telling stories that were related to his life. And some of those stories were and still guiding me in my own entrepreneurial activities and guiding me in my life. My grandfather took enough time to transfer his wisdom as an entrepreneur, as a person, as a traveler, and share with me insights about life, about nature, that will help me so much. And I was extremely grateful for that time with him and with my grandmother that was also doing the same. So I had no regrets. I was very happy, and I was very willing the next morning to wake up very early to spend that precious quality time with my grandfather and my grandmother together. But then he came with an envelope. And I received the envelope and says, for you. So I opened it and I found a lot of money. And I said, what is that, Grandpa? I mean, this is a lot more money than what you used to give me, you know, as pocket money. And he looked at me and said, well, you must learn this. If you work, then you need to get paid. I was not expecting that, but he teaches me a great lesson too. You can find great enjoyment in the work you do, in what you learn, and the quality time you have with friends and people. But when you deliver some outcome that has value, has to be compensated. And this lesson was very important for me because it's the lesson of an entrepreneur, of a traveler, of a person that grew up and built up his life through hard work. And that was my grandfather. So when I think today about the lessons I learned with him, I think one of the most important ones was about the value of work. And the quality time, the quality experience while working is a plus, a bonus, but certainly you deliver something of value. Then based on that, I'm thinking and reflecting on the time in which we started to give free services and experiences to people just because we needed them to understand the value of what we deliver. While that is correct to have an invitation, to give an invitation, a voucher, an opportunity for somebody to experience with you something new that they don't know about, like a taste of wine, like a small taste of a meal, like pictures and a film of a trip, then you motivate them to explore your services, your value. Yet there is a moment in time in which those free experiences need to be clearly delivered and received with the understanding that there is a value delivered and there is a compensation that needs to come after that. So the fair recognition, acknowledgement of the value of the services given needs to have as an outcome a compensation. And I think today with the internet free services we have forgotten why this is so important. When we receive or access free value, we should voluntarily compensate, contribute, and find ways to give back to the person, the company that is actually producing that free value for you. Free value today in the internet has the sole purpose for you to create a relationship and a connection with the author, with the company, with the provider, the coach, the trainer, the consultant, so that you can understand that that relationship could be meaningful and useful for you. It is not the meaning of the free service for you to take it without acknowledging the value or contributing to the person that created it for you. The free service is there for you to experience and develop a relationship, not to abuse it. So from the customer's perspective today, we need to motivate our network and audience to engage into an ethical, fair behavior. And I think this is very important for all of us to understand, also for the people that deliver the free services. So perception of value in this case is extremely important because it's not about a free service or a free time, it's about the experience, the content that has value. Even if by receiving free experiences you go through a process of thinking, realizing that is important for you, that process, that outcome of thinking has been designed, made for you to come to that clarity. So it has a value already and should be compensated. So if somebody helps you to understand why something is important for you, that process of understanding, of clarity has value already and you should compensate for it. So I wish these insights help you to reflect on your own perception of value. How do you relate with customers or with providers by yourself?